We're hot off the heels of a Game 5 Endemic victory over LFM, and now they have Team Freedom standing in front of them to continue their run towards the BlizzCon spot, else Team Freedom will take over their run. Dreadnought, we saw a lot from Endemic, some variety in picks. The last time we saw them versus Team Freedom, though, they also won 3-0 by countering a lot. So they do have a very good shot here.
Yeah, that was the probably best dismantling of early game approach and really just gameplay strategy we've seen any team have up against Team Freedom. But as we said earlier in that series, after that point, things have gotten wild for Endemic. It does feel like they have very much brought the fight here this weekend and been able to figure out a couple of things. But LFM, I can't help but feel like it's just a baby Team Freedom. And I mean that in the most complimentary sense possible. Team Freedom was a team that also started being known very much for their macro, dabble a little bit more into team fighting and things of the like later on. So I just feel like this is going to be the, all right, we took out LFM, but can it work against a team who's been known to be able to dance around the battleground as effectively as Freedom, but then also isn't afraid to team fight and has the mechanical and team synergy like Freedom has over the past 2 years.
As you can see the updated bracket there with Endemic moving on. Today's winner will face Team Octalis tomorrow. The winner of that will face Tempo Storm on Sunday for the ultimate showdown to see who goes to the HGC finals. Endemic, we know the talent is there, but consistency, we heard from Michael Udall in the interview going into the LFM series, said that we just don't know if we're consistent. All you have to do is be consistent for one weekend. They're going to hope that they can do that. Team Freedom, Dreadnought, in part 2 of Phase 2, you could almost echo the same sentiment that inconsistency is the name of the game for them as well.
Yeah, but I think where we look at where that bar falls, even on the lowest end, for Freedom, far higher than that of Endemic, because theirs very much can kind of be all over. So for me, I look at that as it's got to be cleaned up. And I think we got that at moments from the last series from Endemic. It's just that they can't have those moments because Team Freedom is a team that will take those small advantages and small things that maybe LFM was unable to do so and make it their game in areas where, again, it wasn't the case in round 1.
Probably one of the most punishing teams to do that on those small mistakes. Let's hear from these teams on their matchup today as we hear from Zugrug and Michael Udall.
I think when we played Endemic last time around, we didn't give them enough respect, and we thought we would just go in and win, and we didn't really know what to expect, like what heroes Michael Udall is comfortable on range, what supports Biggie is comfortable on. So now that we've seen them more as a team with this role swap, I think we'll be more prepared going into this series. We should be able to beat Endemic pretty easily. I think one of the things that we'll target is B-Kid's hero pool. He has played very limited heroes this season, and it's something that we could definitely punish.
I think in this Freedom series, they're going to need to figure out something new, because last time we played, they had their macro split push style, and then every single turn we were ready for it. We knew what they wanted to do. I mean, that's something where Dansky and Cure were both former Freedom teammates, right? So they definitely kind of understand the mind of how they like to rotate, as well as I very much love the macro game, right? So I've studied them, I respect them, and I know how they want to play it. So I think they're gonna have to come at it from a new macro standpoint, right? They're gonna have to look to team fight us more, because I think picking just macro comps is not gonna work against us.
An interesting point from Zugrug, targeting the hero pool of B-Kid. A lot of Johanna, a lot of Murden. We saw the Johanna in the last series, but then we saw the surprise Stitches, and it looked like he shook any rust off real quick because he was accurate, precise, and that was the name of the game, is he got the hooks, and that helped clinch that series victory just before the series.
Yeah, and it's going to make it interesting to see if maybe they adjust the plan a little bit, not so much into the B-Kid avenue based on the Stitches that we got before, assuming that there can probably be some other things around it. B-Kid's played Warrior long enough that I don't think anybody says he can't play anything. It's just the difference from his I'm going to carry this game versus I feel, very, very comfortable, and then that kind of I'm out of position version of the Warriors there. But for me, when I look at the series, if I put any amount of huge responsibility on any player, especially when looking at Freedom, it's Yoda. I think there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders because in my personal opinion, some of the reason that they run that macro-oriented play seems like it's more of a hero pool adjustment and keeping him on things that he is very, very comfortable, like the Greymane, like the Li Mings. And though Li Ming is more in the meta maybe now than it's ever been, that Greymane strategy and things of the like very much not the case. They've fallen out hard.
You can get away with it once, but fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
But we're going to figure out battleground number 1 here for these teams, Dreadnought, and it will be Sky Temple, picked up by Team Freedom. We mentioned the chip damage and how it affects the objective. This is the most profound one when you can get some of that early game damage in. So we'll see how that comes through. Endemic banning out Volskaya, Team Freedom taking Braxis off. But with our focus on Sky Temple, this does play to, if there is a team that focuses wholly on macro and wholly on just avoiding team fights, and there's one battleground where you said, how can I do that? Sky Temple is the one.
Yeah, it very much is going to be that. And Endemic already has a game on Sky Temple, so got to feel a little bit warmed up, at least, you know, able to deal with the situation at hand in their series versus LFM here. But this is going to take we heard Mike Udall, I think, put it best. Knowing that we're on Sky Temple, macro battlegrounds, that Team Freedom really likes to come in with the early game plan, is if they don't come with something different, and it's dismantled the same pacing that it was last time that we got Endemic versus Team Freedom, this could be a very grim series here for Freedom. Though I don't expect that. I feel like Freedom, they've had a week here in the think tank. I think they'll come out with something, maybe not wild, but definitely deviate from the norm here, as we don't deviate from the norm in terms of bans.
Well, you mentioned they had the warm-up on Sky Temple, but Team Freedom's hero pool is very different than LFM. Lutano alone, somebody, it's like you put him on the hero that he's comfortable with, and that's a lot. You maybe get a Hanzo play here when we look at the boss. We haven't seen Sergeant Hammer in our previous series. That will be something that could spring up here. The gray main you mentioned, but supports targeted as white main banned down. Abathur white main, Medivh, will we get the Maiev ban? Instead it will be the Tyrande. And if you do go Maiev and you're Team Freedom and you avoid those team fights, that Maiev is chasing ghosts. We'll see if Maiev, the hunter, can find that, the demon hunter.
It's going to be interesting here for Endemic. I think that's a really good point that you did bring up, though, is that if the macro game gets out of control, the Maiev is kind of just chasing things around. She is a little better in the macro sense than she used to be in the past in her last adjustment, but it's not enough to be able to make up for that. And here we see the Yrel Gray main pickup from Team Freedom. Going to stick to what they know best here, the chip rotational damage. And suddenly it comes down to, like, this is like almost a, all right, happened once, Endemic got the upper hand, so now it's going to be what has Team Freedom been able to do to reiterate that approach here.
I would love to see the same Johanna pick that Endemic had in their first game. Instead, they're going to go Arthas. So the Arthas plus Maiev, that does do well against a Gray main. Gray main has trouble entering into Worgen form. Arthas has that mounting slow on the auto attack speed. So we'll see that rotation. Post level 4, which is right around the time we see the night camps picked up, around that is a potential for a Yrel Gray main to move forward, get onto that top lane, provide that armor, and then siege down those lanes, which I think is why we're going to see Arthas come in as a potential early game counter towards that strategy. But the one thing we know about Team Freedom, they'll do one thing, they'll show it, and then that gets countered. But then all of a sudden, the next go around, they'll try and shift their focus somewhere else. So we'll see if they do make some adaptations to how they go.
Just the only conundrum or kind of problem I think that it gets arisen when you put it that way, J-How, is though it is a true statement where it's like, yeah, okay, well, first time we'll do this, then we'll do that. There's only 3 options, and it doesn't matter what battleground you go. So it's like, you can always really minimize the damage. It's not like it's a, oh, we caught them off guard. The only battleground where I think you can catch them off guard so much that it gives you an upper hand is Cursed Hollow. And even then, you can do things to kind of stop the bleeding there. As we get the Anubarak and the Hanzo here for Team Freedom, having that Anubarak to be able to spawn those beetles and help the siege of Greymane on those front walls.
I would say this is an almost stubborn approach. But if it works, it works. This is what we know them to do. Spawn the beetles, dive with Yrel, provide armor, use Greymane to get that, have the threat of a boss with Hanzo, who's a great hero all around. So we're going to see the Junkrat, the Zeratul come out. So a lot of lethal threat for Endemic.
A lot of offlane clear in the mid to late game, though, from the Junkrat and the Zeratul to be able to make up from some of the weaknesses of maybe Endemic does end up falling around or falling behind while still having pretty major initiation capabilities in the late stage. I'm not going to lie, I actually really like that rotation from Endemic, though I think it struggles in the Executioner avenue. all other fronts, I really enjoyed that there, as we're going to get the Rhaegar as the last pick here for Team Freedom. Make sure that either that Greymane, Yrel, or Nubarak get a nice Ancestral Healing.
Yeah, the Kharazim, which we know would sometimes fit into that slot. Arthas says, nah, you're not really going to dive into that. And the early game advantages you probably don't get as much out of. So I think Rhaegar a safer pick. You have the cleanse opportunity earlier at level 7. And you mentioned the Ancestrals. So there are a lot of really good picks here. If you're Team Freedom and you're like, what does Team Freedom look like for the last 6 to 7 months? You take this, you transplant it at any given time, and this is Team Freedom. This is what we know them to be.
Yeah, like this, Infernal Shrines and Curse Hollow. I could take this draft and put it on any one of those 3 and be like, Freedom's running what they run. This is the go-to because those are battlegrounds that can support that playstyle. This is hands down the best, though. Sky Temple is probably the only one where I understand maybe, you know, kind of beating the horse until it really doesn't stop spitting up money, really, at that point. Because right now, that's all they're getting. They're just getting dollar signs for the most part. Last time, Endemic did have enough to be able to handle it here. And I would like to think that they probably do again here. This is no surprise. And if anybody needs to be the surpriser, it seems like it should be Freedom based on Endemic's performance last time they fought.
Dread looking for not just the money pig, but the money horse coming soon to an imaginary world near you. Lutano, he'll be on the Hanzo. Zugrug will be on the front line on a Nubarak. Nasmus will be on the Yrel. Yoda on Greymane. We know he gets in there in collusion on the Rhaegar.
And in the red is going to be Endemic here, where we have Dansky on the Maiev. Cure repping the squad on that Zeratul once more. Big impact coming in on the Deckard Cain. Mike Udall probably on one of his more iconic heroes as of late. Junkrat and B-Kid on the front line playing Arthas, showing even more that maybe that warrior hero pool is not as small as you may think.
He's showing the flexibility today. I am wondering, Junkrat has a lot of pros. In post 13, he's not too shy of hopping around the map, almost forgiving of not having a true global. But I wonder if we'll see the return of the Michael Udall Falstad. We are not on the patch with the changes to Falstad, which the W build does seem far more appealing. And there's Yoda being tracked down and locked into that slow. And Dansky getting fan reset after fan reset.
Really well done there from Dansky, and the major reason as to why Endemic was able to threaten away and gain an upper hand in this early stage. And normally, J.O., this is the point where you're like, oh, they already got half a front wall, a little bit of damage on the front wall. Endemic has already started their dismantling. There's a lot of points that they have to keep this up, but it's showing that they've approached this with a very much, we know what you want, we know how to handle it. And they're going to find Nasmus here in the mid lane and set up a nice kill there. And that was part of the reason I like the Zeratul pickup. I think as this game moves on, Zeratul in the off lane is going to find a lot of free kills and rotations there, because Junkrat will make up for the lack of wave clear that you get in a traditional off lane warrior.
Well, Kira not going into the globe build this time, built around the blink. So unlikely we'll go into that strength at level 4 for the autos.
One thing I hadn't considered too much when looking at this composition would be cocoon reveal opportunities. Arthas is the best target they have with the Frozen Tempest, but beyond that, it's actually pretty poor across the board for Endemic. Nobody has that easy of a clear until you hit. I guess Rend and Cleave is probably the most realistic option other than that.
Well, here comes the post-level 4 focus. They use Yrel to the top lane. We'll have the armor at level 4 to supply to that Greymane. So Yrel, Greymane, Rhaegar, the ultimate push. See how much they can get out of this. Arthas, you can already see the minimap on the rotation up. That will be paramount to the defense. So you can see several heroes for Endemic rotating up and a Night Camp to help defend as well.
This is not something that's in their control, but this minion wave positioning is really, really, really good for Endemic. Just out of range of the turrets to get free damage into it, and if in case it pushes out, they can just get the free clear before any reasonable siege damage comes in. Night Camp's been dealt with, and Endemic now have a pretty big upper hand here in the top lane and looking towards this first shrine phase. Nobody on bottom, though, to get the soak for Endemic. It's going to hurt a little bit there, but without Hanzo having level 7 yet, not going to have too much wave clear to force that lack of experience.
Dread, it's too early to make any declarations. Hold on a second. We've got the root, we've got the tether. Collusion will hop into wolf form and move out of there. It's too early to make any declarations, but the early kill by Endemic kind of disrupted the momentum and then stalling out that top wave.
Yeah.
that is what Team Freedom is all about. And this was very reminiscent of their previous series where Endemic came out and 3-0'd and did so in similar fashion.
I agree. It feels like we are watching the exact same series unfold here, so at least so far. We haven't hit a breaking point, though, where Endemic is necessarily in control. But if you were to list all the small checkboxes that Team Freedom wanted in this game, they have not really gotten any of them so far. And that is because of Endemic forcing the hand as they're now trying to get the zone off. We'll see if anybody on Freedom is able to make it to deal with the Maev in time. She had the opportunity to finish those shots, as that's just a Hanzo. That was actually a really big loss here. Let's see if Endemic can make up for it through this rotation to mid.
That would have pushed them super close towards taking down that fort. Easy XP later. That will break the tether. The unstoppable cleanse use by Collusion will keep Zugrug alive. Lutano making his way down. B-Kid, Icebound Fortitude used there to try and keep himself alive. Still walk away.
We'll end up walking away when we see the shots all consumed here from both teams. Experience advantage, near dead even. Structure advantage in favor of Endemic there. That northern lane having that fort so very close to already dropping. But the experience, as long as it's even, Freedom is still in this game because they do have better sieging opportunities than most with that Greymane Anubarak.
The Anubarak, this is the second time we've seen Anubarak versus an Arthas going into that hardened Carapace build. You get the movement speed at level 4, and then you get the cooldown reduction on it whenever you take ability damage from heroes. Given that Arthas is on the other side, has the fast ticking ability, it allows you a chance to get the cooldown on that, survive longer, and also have the mobility. Michael Udall, there's the stun lock potential, the concussion mine, enough to keep him alive.
Enough to keep him alive pre-10, but that happens post-10. That may be a dead Junkrat there. Bottom has both Giants. Nice positioning from BK. Collusion has no way out of this. 2 more seconds until he's got the Spirit there. Feral Heart,
nice
Feral
root.
Wolf, excuse me. Then we see the the Howling Blast thrown down, setting up the team. Yoda, nobody to disengage to or engage into, have to get in a bad spot. Not going to go for the tether, though, is Dansky. Very well done here from Endemic. Once again, taking the early game approach of Team Freedom and just denying them everything.
They denied a lot in the top lane in the previous push, and it's up to them. Getting the kills is nice. Small experience lead, but it's what you do with the kills on this one, and getting some of this early damage in will help this bottom temple should they obtain some of these shots. The approach already does have Junkrat clearing out that top lane, will likely make his way down after that clear. See the approaches, 10, very close for both teams.
My Zeratul Junkrat offlane dominate Yrel. The longer this 1-4 happens, the better it gets for Endemic. So much so that I'd be willing to even say if they didn't want to focus too much on this bottom shrine and just make sure they keep them busy, that would actually probably gain them more. But now, Junkrat surviving and shots being picked up here by Endemic. J-How, we said it wasn't a breaking point before, but we're rounding what is feeling like the breaking point in favor of Endemic if Freedom can't figure out this early game. And they're going to try here with the Dragon's Arrow.
The BP in response, though. Nasmus will live in that backline. Michael Udall with the Riptire. This is 4 members in. See if he can capitalize on this. Instead, has not hit the mark just yet. Just misses the jump. Will have to use the explosion. So a lot of heroics used by Endemic. Only the one for Team Freedom so far. I think Endemic recognizes that, Dread. They're going to concede the rest of this temple.
But enough shots were picked up for the damage to already be done, J-How, though it is a silver lining to avoid that breaking point from Team Freedom. It's by no means full recovery yet, as Junkrat will be able to secure that top fort, and bottom fort is pretty much already down. Zeratul on the side questioning if he can flank in. He's going to decide to do so. Lutana will be the focus if he goes in. Sets him to 50%. He can Vorpal if he'd like, not going to.
Ancestral available if they need it. There's the root. Nice cleanse by Collusion. Lutano had about 0.1 second where he was stuck in his tracks. And with that low health pool, they know that it was crucial to keep him alive. There's always, no matter what, we saw the throw pit, the boss pit, on Tomb of the Spider Queen. There's a lot of control for Team Freedom and the race potential for Hanzo. See how this plays out as we go to the later stage of this game.
We notice how Cure has just legitimately been almost a ward over that boss.
Just AFK?
He's just not moving. He just goes, this is my home. Nobody's going to travel. Nobody's going to path this loop. And because of that, he's anchoring the transitions from bottom to mid constantly. He's not scouting boss, everyone. He is letting everyone know, are they top, are they bottom? This is pretty clever here from Endemic. Purely because that boss drops down that half inch, that's why he expects nobody to naturally path there.
There's another tether. Yoda trying to get out of there, does make it out. There's the BP. Yoda, he's isolated there, trying to make his way into that. He's in for now. See if he makes his way out. Dragon Arrow in response. Yoda receives the Ancestral, and now comes the Rip Tires. The fight continues on.
Bakura doing so much damage on the back end, able to dodge there as the Howling Blast comes through. BK already dropping the Army of the Dead. Is Yoda trying to get the damage onto Cure? It goes a 1-for-1 trade there. Now BK seems to be the focus as Zugrug. No mana available. Dansky comes in with a follow-up, but he's actually up too far. There is the full turnaround. Mike Udall trying to clean up Zugrug, but he's got the shields, and Jayhow and Endemic bite off more than they can chew. Freedom turn it around, and with a nice concussion mine, Endemic are able to make it out here, minimizing losses.
It was a close. That 1-for-1 trade in the early going. There's a camp pushing top. That will be responded to by a Nubarak. Neither team really able to make much happen beyond this. Team Freedom will get on the bottom temple seconds before Endemic gets onto that mid temple. Experience almost dead even. Kills only 3-2. We have a close one here in game number 1.
We have a close one, but we have to remind everybody that the structure advantage still very much in favor of Endemic, though the experience is at an even state. They're going to lock down all 3 forts within this one rotation, whereas it will only be about a 4.5 for Freedom. As we see the gank there onto Collusion, as long as B-Kid's the one who tanks the shots, he is, as the Vorpal comes through, and there it is, enough to get the kill. B-Kid should have stayed there, and he's going to go almost down. Nasmus now with the flank here, no escape opportunity. Yoda gets the pick there. Bit of a misstep, but great play by Team Freedom.
Yeah, B-Kid's not making it out of here alive. Yoda doing a very good job tracking their Dreadnought, staying outside of that range, making very good use of that. And now with those 2 kills, the Hanzo, the Greymane, see if they try and make more happen, as the containment disc was used to keep a Nubarak at bay, and they are instantly on this boss. Dread that went from 100 to about 70% in like 1 shot.
Lutano now is going to be the boss racer there on the Hanzo. With Endemic sniffing it out, they don't want to deal with it, realizing that Hanzo races a bit faster than maybe even they would like. Now Team Freedom has been able to recover here into this game pretty heavily, because the damage they get onto that bottom front wall will be made up for here as well with the rotation time that they fought towards mid and towards top. This is what Team Freedom's composition is amazing at, is this mid-game pressure in those off lanes.
Well, they used that composition to take down some of that middle fort before the rest of the temple was going to go there. We're going to see the rotation to the top as 4 members still down here for Endemic. The rotation up to that top fort should help confirm that momentarily. Team Freedom fighting their way back in this. The rotation not as healthy as they want. They didn't prep any minion waves. See if they push with the threat of 16 in that night camp here in a moment.
It's either that or you take the rotation with a full 4-man commitment and abuse the Nubarak Beetles, but definitely a little bit more patient here from Freedom than even I expected. And that leaves it to where structurally they haven't totally recovered the same way I thought they would. Eventually top's going to remain victim towards Team Freedom, but that only stalls this game back to even footing here. This is...
Well, right now, Zeratul not here. Zeratul is stealing the siege camp away in this bottom lane, which is nice, but this is a 5-man commitment here. You have Urel armor. You have Beetles if you need to dive, but Greymane, if he can get onto this is why the Arthas pickup is so good for Endemic. But right now, they are losing this entire keep wall.
Nasmus might need to leap there to help with the dismount. Dansky has an opportunity there. Lutana on the sidewall throws out that scatter arrow at that last couple of seconds. Cure sharking on the side now that the 16's picked up. No dismount from Lutano as he ends up hitting that last scatter. Now this is initiation. They're going to turn around. Dragon's Arrow already out.
The cocoon is there, and that's going to be Deckard. He's left all alone, but the BP is going to keep him alive. Zugrug not able to do enough damage. We'll see if we get anything outside of this. Is everybody up for Team Freedom? They're coming back in, Dread.
Dansky needs to be able to keep himself alive as he finds a couple of resets, but so does Yoda, but he gets bullied by that Lornado 2-for-1 trade in favor of Endemic as B-Kid stops Nasmus and friends from retreating. There's the Vorpal coming out from Cure. Nasmus out of here. Endemic with 3 kills. Giant sieging on bottom and 7 seconds out from the next altar phase. This is their breaking point within this game to gain full and absolute control here. And it's going to start by prepping this top shrine. just through damage here.
Dread, how clutch have these VPs been
Yes.
by Cure? I mean, that's 2 times now in dire situations where he lands what seems to be almost like a perfect VP to just stall everything. They managed to keep 4 members alive. They trade out there. They'll take down that. They'll move towards that top temple, which will help them take down the keep. Maybe a little slower than I anticipated. They should have had 1 person back.
Yeah, if they're going to be this low in the rotations and send somebody to the top shrine, and what this does is give Team Freedom a window to actually take this fight over the top shrine before that keep even falls. That should not have been a true statement. This is definitely again, maybe getting a little antsy here from Endemic. That being said, they're a team that probably needs to take a couple of these risks if they're going to take a series onto Team Freedom. But now it is the fight over this top shrine as the keep starting to fall.
Well, here we go again. VP up in 8 seconds from now. Nasmus moves forward. B-Kid trying to get the lockdown. There's the containment disc onto a Nubarek. That's about to expire. And Lutano Dreadnought, he's all but stuck alone. The cleanse is there. He somehow gets stuck behind. The Ancestral will land right as that wears off. Biggie, however, is in deep. He survives, but not for long. Dansky, he's trying to trade out. He's getting low. And Lutano somehow is still bouncing around here, Dreadnought.
He's bouncing around there, but now with 2 members dead, this 3rd member dropped. Endemic, or Team Freedom now in a great position. Lutano was very much the focus, but Endemic going a little bit too far out of their way to ensure that they ended up getting it, along with an interesting tether cyber agility interaction.
I've never seen somebody in that position before. It threw me off for a second.
Not gonna lie, I didn't think it was a possible position.
I'm like, yeah, he's definitely where I see him.
But it keeps Lutano alive, kiting back and forth between that choke. And now, an impossible defense here onto the core. Cure is going to be the focus concussion mine.
Cure went back in, Dread.
Yeah.
And that might be enough here, as it looks like they turn their attention with that 1 kill. They're going to look to take down the core. They have the Greymane. He's onto this. Yoda trying to rip apart. 90% falling. Team Freedom trying to go up 1 game in this series. You can see they have the tether on there. He's trying to keep them down. 30% and falling. It looks like Team Freedom might have done enough off of that last team fight, as 10% in there, and Team Freedom will go up 1-0 in this series.
Team Freedom able to hold on even with their classic composition here. That Endemic was very effective at dismantling the first time these teams fought. And it started heavily in Endemic's favor, limiting the early game pressure and everything the like. But Freedom, off of that 1 rotation from Endemic, not being able to take the shots while getting that split siege outward, punished perfectly.
If the goal is to just take down that keep wall prior to, I think they committed too many heroes.
Yeah, I agree.
It was just that 1 mistake. It was a point. I want to reiterate what you said in the beginning of this series, is that Team Freedom, you make 1 small mistake, they will capitalize. That gave them an opportunity to get back in the game. They capitalized in a big way. They just put a stamp on it and sent it on its way. That's game number 1 right out. I mean, just like that.
Yeah, and you know, that's, again, it's hard for me to look at that and go, come on, Endemic, right? Because we know that they need to be doing things that they didn't do in the normal league. Otherwise, they wouldn't be standing here in playoffs. I think that's the best way to look at it. So what deviation do they need to have? And you could see that was, we need to get pre-damage, whereas maybe a safer team just backs out, picks up those shots. It was just the resource management on who tanks mixed with how fast we do damage, who can sustain on the shrine mixed with who's too low and needs it back. It was just 1 resource in 1 direction too few, and I feel like it was the back was the biggest problem. 2 targets backing while 2 siege up. It was a major setback there for Endemic.
Well, one good thing for Endemic is that is Team Freedom's map choice. That's a map they love to go to. Infernal Shrines has kind of been that go-to again, falling back a little in favor of Sky Temple. Endemic will have a chance, whether they want first pick or whether they want map pick, they'll have that in a moment. So they do have some silver lining in the fact that, look, Team Freedom, they prepared all week for this. If they get Sky Temple, if they get Infernal, they have strategies in mind. Team Freedom, it's just rehashing the old ones, and it's still very difficult for a lot of teams to deal with.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern, though, with that when it comes to maps specifically is, though, that was Sky Temple, and Endemic's not afraid of Sky Temple, but overall it's Freedom's battleground. They're the ones who like to pick it. The other battlegrounds, for the most part, overlap heavy, and I think if you give that in favor of one team, you'd say Team Freedom's the better team, so therefore that complements them. The only battleground Endemic can rely on, and I think it's still a bit of a stretch, is like Tomb, which has been their go-to for some time. So I don't know. I think that's the only way they can hold on. Your smirk makes me feel like they ended up choosing Tomb.
Oh, you know, we're going to find out.